3 straight days of potential tornado outbreaks are going to be possible. And if we go ahead and dive right into things here on the day 1 outlook, the Storm Prediction Center 6 minutes ago added a moderate risk of severe weather to parts of northern Oklahoma and parts of central and southern Kansas. You can tell we do have a very large enhanced risk also extending from North Texas back into southwest Nebraska, northwest Kansas, and northeast Colorado. Damaging winds, large hail, and strong tornadoes appear likely today. And if we go ahead and look at the tornado outlook today, you can tell the Storm Prediction Center has added a 15% hatched tornado risk, but they've also added a 10% non-hatched up here in parts of northwest Kansas. Watching it very closely, we do have a 10% hatched tornado risk extending from parts of northern Kansas back through parts of southern and southwestern Oklahoma. We do have a bit of a lower threat for damaging winds, only a 15% chance in 4 different areas. And then we could see hailstones up to the size of softballs today. So make sure you are staying weather aware in any of these risk areas. If we go ahead and move on to tomorrow looks like a big day, but today looks big too. But honestly, tomorrow looks bigger. So we do have a very large enhanced risk. And 10 minutes ago, I was not thinking I'd have to say this when I was making this video, but I do think a moderate risk will be introduced at 12:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time across this area. And by tomorrow morning, I do think a high risk of severe weather will be issued across this area. I do think we will see a high risk of severe weather tomorrow, whether that is for damaging winds or tornadoes. I am not sure yet, but there is lots of disagreement in models. But like I said, I do expect to see a high risk tomorrow with how today has turned, and seeing that the Storm Prediction Center doesn't look to be as conservative as they have been. I do think there is a possibility we do see a high risk tomorrow. You can tell we have a extremely large 10% hatch tornado outlook. This covers roughly a population of 10 million people, and it extends from parts of southeastern Nebraska back through parts of North Texas and through the Arklatex region. So very large, and I do expect a upgrade to a 15% hatch tornado and maybe even a 30% hatch tornado risk tomorrow. Damaging winds, we could see some damaging winds up to 75 miles an hour, maybe upwards of 80, but I don't think it will be too crazy. The severe hail, accidentally skipped over it, but we could yet again see some softball-sized hail all across this area tomorrow. And moving on to Tuesday, we do have an enhanced risk of severe weather over places that did just get hit by pretty violent tornadoes. And I do not expect this to be a full-blown tornado outbreak. This does look more like a damaging wind threat, but we're going to keep our eye on it here. And we do have a 30 and a 15% hatched risk for significant severe weather. So hailstones exceeding 2 inches in diameter, EF2 to EF5 tornado damage, and wind gusts exceeding 75 miles an hour. If we go ahead and move on here to the HRRR, as it is just now starting to render in. So if we actually go ahead and do sector selection, Southern Great Plains, we're just going to see what it shows so far, how far out it does get. So it does show pretty intense supercells going up across that part of southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma. That is why that moderate risk was introduced, as there looks to be lots of difference here between the 12Z and the 11Z. If I go ahead and look here, yeah, those storms do not look to be too crazy on that 11Z. So we are going to actually back it up, though, to 06Z for now. And as we can see here, it looked like our storms were going to set up a lot farther to the east, and now they're setting up a lot farther to the west and north. So we will actually come back to the HRRR at the end of this forecast so we can get more of it rendered in. If we go and look at the NAM model, it is showing, it did not show those storms going up. So we are watching it very closely. And then tomorrow, there is lots of uncertainty on storm mode. And we are watching here, though, a dry line setup. And any storm that gets going along this dry line is going to have the chance for damaging winds, large hail up to softball size, and a couple tornadoes. Maybe even a long track tornado will be possible. If we go and look at convective and look at the significant tornado parameter, we can see that there is a decently high significant tornado parameter across the board for tomorrow. But if we go ahead and back it up a little bit to today, you can tell there is a pretty high significant tornado parameter, again, across a very large area. So we are watching this very closely, and we will be keeping a close eye on this for you. I do have church here in an hour and 15 minutes, but we should be able to come back and give you another update if necessary later this afternoon. If we go and look at the NAM NST model, it did not pick up on the storms firing either, and it overall has a very messy setup for today and even tomorrow. So I don't know how much I trust this. And this model, I do want to say, is a model that is always putting out more linear storm and not supercells. So that is one thing to take into account. But if we go ahead and look today at our significant tornado parameter values, as I will say, these are tricky forecasts over the next couple days. You can tell we are actually going to have a very high significant tornado parameter value across the board today. And even heading into tomorrow, we are going to see a pretty high significant tornado parameter value come into play across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, along with portions of Arkansas, and even parts of western and southern Missouri. So it is something that we have to watch very closely right now. So as you can tell here, I kept this up to try and see here. A moderate risk of severe thunderstorms is forecasted today and or tonight. Severe thunderstorms capable of all severe hazards are expected later today across portions of central and southern plains. Several strong to intense tornadoes are possible. So that wording is really concerning, but it still has not updated right there when I click on the outlook. So for some reason, this is not updating here. So we are going to have to just go off this, because even if I hit convective outlook, yeah, it's not updating like that. So just having to keep an eye on that. We will probably be back with another update later, I do have to say. And here you can tell it wants a very large, this is the CIPS CSU like I had showed you yesterday. Wants a very large 15% tornado risk tomorrow. Wants a very large 30% hail risk, with a small 45% hail risk in northern Oklahoma, and a 45% hatched wind risk tomorrow in Oklahoma. So we are going to keep a very close eye on this for you. And I brought this up because it says 00Z cam guidance shows a range of solutions, including earlier storms being the primary threat. This is for tomorrow, keep in mind. Delayed dryline initiation. This would bring the potential for a tornado outbreak type solution across central and eastern Kansas, central and eastern Oklahoma. But there is also a combination of both solutions. So that means we could see solution 1 and solution 2 tomorrow, which means we would see some earlier storms being pretty dangerous and pretty intense. But we're going to see delayed dryline initiation, which means our atmosphere is going to become more unstable because of that, leading to a tornado outbreak solution. So that'd be tornado outbreak potential tomorrow. And the uncertainty in this guidance at this time precludes a moderate risk. So we do not have a moderate risk right now, but we are watching if that will be issued at 12:30 today. That is Central Time, just so you know. 1:30 Eastern, 11:30 Mountain Time. the higher probabilities may be needed with a more favored solution becomes more clear, especially if one of the higher end scenarios appears likely. So if 3 or 2 happens, we will likely see a moderate risk or even a high risk. I'd say if 3 happens, we will see a high risk. And depending on how robust 1 is, we might see a moderate risk. But if 2 happens, a moderate risk is likely. If 3 happens, a high risk is possible. And if 1 happens, I do think it will probably just stay a enhanced risk. I want to come back here and check on the HRRR real fast. See if it has rendered in. It has only rendered in a little more, but we will go and take a look at it. So I want to take a sounding before the storms fire, if it would let me. It is not letting me. Okay, that's okay. But as you can tell, some pretty intense supercells are going to go up today, as there is a lot of difference in models, and we sadly do not have all of the model runs in, and we are still having to watch this area very closely. So sadly, we will not be able to look at the full HRRR. It is as far out right now as I can get it right here. We will leave it up and go and take a look at my custom graphics and come back to it and then end the video. So if we go ahead and come here and go to the severe potential for today, you can tell I upgraded to a high risk of tornadoes. You can tell my risk goes from very low to critical. We are at a high risk here. The wind threat is a low, and the hail I do have at a high end moderate. I may, if we make another video, extend it a bit to a low end high risk. And I may end up extending the tornado to a low end critical risk, depending on models. And that flooding threat is very low. I am watching the wind threat, though, very closely to upgrade to maybe a mid-moderate. But I'm going to keep an eye on it. If I go ahead and head over here to my watch probabilities for today, I have high likelihood of a watch being issued. I have a high chance of a severe thunderstorm watch being issued somewhere. I have a high threat of a tornado watch being issued somewhere. I did actually add a high or a moderate risk of a PDS tornado watch. That means a 95% chance of tornadoes and a 90% chance of an EF2 or greater intensity tornado. You need a 95-90 or a 95-95 for that. And I did put a low PDS severe thunderstorm watch. And then I did put high forecast confidence for this. And then for tomorrow's severe potential, we are sitting at a moderate risk for the tornado and hail. We are at a moderate risk for wind. I don't know why the color didn't change, but this should be orange. And I am probably going to upgrade this to a high-end moderate, the wind potential. The tornado will likely go to high-end tornado by 12:30. And the hail, I am looking at maybe even extending into mid-critical, because we are going to be looking at the potential for softball-sized plus tomorrow, I feel. So you notice that this does look pretty similar to what I just showed you. It has high watch probability, high for the severe and tornado watch, moderate for the PDS tornado watch, and low for the PDS severe thunderstorm watch. Yeah, those are all the same. Except forecast confidence here. This is a big question right here. Like we just showed you why a moderate risk is not in play right now. We don't know if we are going to have supercellular or a linear storm mode yet for tomorrow. So we are having to watch it very closely. We are keeping a very close eye on this, as this definitely has the chance to be tornado outbreak. So we're going to keep an eye on it. I did want to go ahead and look at the significant tornado parameter values right now. So the significant tornado parameter values, they do actually get pretty high when those storms are happening. So we're keeping a close eye on this whole area right here. And I will keep you updated with the latest after church. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you are new here. And stay weather aware if you are in any risk area. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.